In Japan, kitchens aren't just about cooking. They're designed so that every single item earns its place. Not because it's decorative, not because it was expensive, but because it has a purpose that serves daily life. There's a quiet wisdom in that. Imagine if your own kitchen, and even the rest of your home, worked the same way. No digging through 3 potato mashers to find the one that actually works. No mystery lids without containers. No overstuffed drawers where utensils jam and tangle. For so many seniors in America, especially after 60, these little inconveniences pile up until they quietly steal your energy and make daily life more frustrating than it needs to be. A Japanese kitchen flips that story. Every tool, every dish, every surface exists to make life smoother, safer, and more enjoyable. And here's the best part. You don't have to move to Tokyo to do this. You can start with one small change that transforms how you move, cook, and even feel in your own home. If you want a home that feels lighter, safer, and easier to maintain after 60, hit like and subscribe, because what you're about to discover could completely change the way you live in your space. Naoko was the kind of woman who made tea like an art form. At 68, she had recently retired from teaching Japanese cooking classes in Kyoto and moved to a quiet town in Oregon to be closer to her daughter. Her new American home was charming, but she couldn't help noticing something every time she visited friends or neighbors. The kitchens here looked beautiful, sometimes even bigger than the ones back in Japan, but they were hard to use. Counters were crowded with appliances that only got plugged in twice a year. Cabinets were stuffed so tightly with dishes that taking out a single plate felt like a balancing act. Even walking from the sink to the stove meant sidestepping a few temporary storage piles that had somehow become permanent. Naoko wasn't judging. She understood how life builds up this way, especially after 60. Every item has a story. The bread maker bought during a health kick, the extra casserole dishes just in case the family comes over, the cute mugs collected on vacations. She knew this wasn't about laziness, it was about habits built over decades, and the natural tendency to hold on, just in case. In Kyoto, Naoko's childhood home had been small, but nothing felt cramped. Even the simplest tool, like a tea strainer, had its own perfectly sized spot. Her mother taught her that a home should serve you, not the other way around. You don't waste space on what isn't used, and you don't hide what's needed every day. This wasn't just organization, it was a way of life that protected both time and energy. That's why Naoko noticed her neighbor, Dorothea. At 72, Dorothea was warm, witty, and fiercely independent, but she admitted she was feeling overwhelmed by her home. Her kitchen, especially, had become a maze of gadgets, mismatched containers, and heavy pans stored too low or too high. Simple meals were tiring to prepare, and she found herself avoiding cooking altogether. One afternoon, over a pot of green tea, Naoko offered to show Dorothea how Japanese kitchen principles could make her space safer, easier, and more peaceful. What started as a plan to clear a few drawers became something much bigger, a step-by-step transformation that didn't just change Dorothea's kitchen, but reshaped how she lived in her entire home. And it all began with one small, surprisingly simple mindset shift. Core principle number 1, the Ichiban Rule. In Japanese, the word Ichiban means number 1, the very best. And in the kitchen, that principle is simple but powerful. Keep only the single best version of an item you use every day, and let the rest go. When Naoko first explained this to Dorothea, she laughed and said, "Oh, that's easy. I don't have that many extras." But then they started opening drawers. Out came 4 different vegetable peelers, 5 wooden spoons, 3 nearly identical frying pans, and a pile of knives, some so dull they couldn't slice a tomato without squashing it. None of this was unusual. In fact, Naoko noticed it was incredibly common in American homes, especially for seniors who have collected items over decades. Every new purchase was meant to help in the kitchen, but instead, these duplicates created visual clutter, slowed down cooking, and sometimes even made it unsafe. For older adults, this isn't just about tidiness. Having too many versions of the same tool can lead to decision fatigue, that subtle mental drain that happens when you have to choose between options over and over. Even small choices, like picking a knife, can make cooking feel like more effort than it should. And then there's the physical side. Crowded drawers and cabinets can cause spills, stubbed toes, or even dangerous falls if you have to stretch, bend, or climb to reach something. The Ichiban Rule eliminates all that by asking one simple question: if I could only keep the single best one of these, which would it be? Not the prettiest, not the most expensive, not the one with sentimental value, but the one that truly works the best for you today. For Dorothea, that meant choosing one sharp, easy-grip chef's knife and letting go of a dozen others that were either dull, heavy, or awkward to hold. The moment she did, she noticed cooking felt calmer. She didn't have to dig through a drawer or second-guess herself. She just reached for the knife she loved and got started. Naoko explained that in Japan, this principle goes beyond the kitchen. The best teacup, the most comfortable chair, the single umbrella that really works, each is given space and respect. It's about trusting that one well-chosen item will serve you far better than 10 average ones. And for seniors in the United States, especially those over 60, adopting this mindset can make life not only simpler, but safer. Less clutter means fewer obstacles, less bending, and less risk of strain. And here's the surprising part. Once Dorothea saw the impact in her kitchen, she started applying the Ichiban Rule to other areas: her wardrobe, her bathroom, even her gardening tools. The more she let go, the easier her home became to navigate. So, let's bring this back to you. If you had to choose just one of something in your kitchen, one pot, one cutting board, one mixing spoon, what would it be? And why? Tell us in the comments. You might be surprised at how freeing it feels to pick your number one. Core principle number 2, the flow path. In Japan, the most efficient kitchens follow what's known as the flow path, a layout where every movement from start to finish is smooth, circular, and intentional. There's no wandering back and forth, no crisscrossing the space, and certainly no wasted steps. Every task flows naturally into the next. When Naoko stepped into Dorothea's kitchen for the first time, she noticed something right away. It wasn't that Dorothea didn't have space, it was that the space wasn't working for her body anymore. Plates she used daily were stored high above her head, requiring her to stretch and pull down stacks of heavy ceramic. Pots she reached for most often were tucked in a low cabinet, forcing her to bend down and dig through a jumble just to get the right one. And the trash bin? Across the room from where she chopped vegetables, which meant carrying dripping scraps across the kitchen, sometimes weaving around chairs or a walker. For someone over 60, those extra steps aren't just inconvenient, they add up to physical strain. Reaching overhead can pull at the shoulders and back. Bending low can put pressure on the knees. Twisting while carrying something heavy can trigger balance issues. Over time, these movements quietly weigh you down, making cooking feel like a chore rather than a joy. The flow path principle changes that by rethinking where items live, so the cooking process becomes one smooth, safe sequence. In Japanese kitchens, daily use dishes are stored between waist and shoulder height. No step stools, no crouching. The most used tools live within arm's reach of where they are needed. And work areas are arranged in a logical circle: wash, chop, cook, serve, clean. For Dorothea, the first fix was simple but life-changing. She moved her daily plates and bowls from the high cabinet to a lower, easy-to-reach shelf just above the counter. Suddenly, setting the table didn't feel like a workout. Next, she shifted her cutting board and knives closer to the sink so she could rinse, prep, and cook in one fluid movement. The trash bin moved right next to her prep space, so she no longer carried scraps across the room, a small change that reduced both mess and the risk of tripping. Within a week, she noticed she wasn't as tired after cooking. She could prepare meals without feeling like she was walking laps around her kitchen. Her movements were lighter, her posture improved, and she even joked that she was cooking like a Tokyo chef. The beauty of the flow path is that it doesn't require a full remodel. You don't need expensive organizers or fancy pull-out drawers. You just need to watch yourself cook for one day and notice where the friction happens, where you stop, turn, or strain. Then, rearrange so that the tools and ingredients you use most are right where you need them. And here's the thing, when the flow of your kitchen works, your whole home starts to feel easier. That's because you're no longer spending energy on unnecessary movements, energy you could be using for the things you truly enjoy. But Naoko wasn't done yet. Her next idea wasn't about where things went, It was about how Dorothea thought about the things she kept. And Dorothea swore it was the single change that saved her the most energy. Core principle number 3, the Mottainai Mindset. In Japan, there's a beautiful word that carries both practicality and heart, Mottainai. It translates loosely to waste nothing, but it's more than that, it's about respect. Respect for the resources, the craftsmanship, the time, and even the people behind the objects we own. It's the belief that every item has a purpose, and when that purpose is no longer being fulfilled in your life, it's time to pass it on so it can serve elsewhere. When Naoko introduced this concept to Dorothea, she saw her neighbor's shoulders tense. Like so many seniors in the United States, Dorothea admitted she held on to things because she felt guilty letting them go. Gifts from family. Appliances bought on sale but rarely used. Kitchenware inherited from relatives who had passed away. She feared that giving them away meant wasting money or disrespecting the memory attached to them. Naoko gently explained that Mottainai isn't about keeping everything to avoid waste, it's about ensuring nothing sits unused when it could be making someone else's life better. In other words, hoarding an item is actually a form of waste, because it's not living up to its purpose. The turning point came when Dorothea noticed she had 2 slow cookers. One was a compact, modern model she used for soups and stews at least twice a month. The other was a larger, heavier one, a gift from her late sister-in-law, which had been sitting untouched in the back of a cabinet for over a decade. Every time she saw it, she felt a pang of guilt. She didn't use it, but she didn't want to betray the memory of the person who gave it to her. That's when Naoko suggested a new perspective. What if honoring your sister-in-law meant letting that slow cooker serve someone else, instead of gathering dust? Dorothea realized that her sister-in-law had loved cooking for groups, something Dorothea no longer did. Keeping the slow cooker hidden wasn't honoring her memory, it was trapping that item's purpose in a cupboard. The next week, Dorothea donated it to a local community kitchen that served free hot meals to families in need. When she dropped it off, she felt a mix of sadness and relief, but mostly pride. She pictured it simmering a big pot of chili for a winter lunch, feeding people who might not have had a warm meal otherwise. That image made her feel connected to her sister-in-law in a new way. For seniors, adopting the Mottainai mindset can be incredibly freeing. Instead of looking at an unused item and thinking, I'm wasting it if I give it away, you start thinking, I'm wasting it if I don't. It reframes decluttering from an act of loss into an act of generosity. You're not throwing something out, you're sending it on to fulfill its purpose. And it's not just about kitchen tools. This can apply to extra blankets that could keep someone warm, mugs that could brighten another person's morning coffee, or even furniture that could make a small apartment feel like home. When Dorothea embraced Mottainai, she noticed something unexpected. Her home felt lighter, but so did her heart. Letting go stopped feeling like saying goodbye, and started feeling like doing a favor, both for herself and for someone else. And as Naoko reminded her, an item's life doesn't end when it leaves your home. Sometimes, that's when it truly begins. Core principle number 4, hidden beauty. In many Japanese kitchens, you'll notice something striking. They don't feel chaotic, even when they are full of life. The secret isn't that they have fewer things, though they often do. It's that they practice what Naoko called hidden beauty. This means keeping what you need within reach, but out of sight, so your eyes and your mind can rest. Instead of looking at piles of pots, jars, and utensils every time you walk into the kitchen, you see clean lines, warm textures, and calm surfaces. For Naoko, this wasn't about creating a showroom-perfect kitchen. It was about protecting mental space. She explained to Dorothea that the brain reacts to visual clutter the same way it reacts to noise. It's overstimulating. Every object you see sends a tiny mental ping, and enough of those pings throughout the day can lead to restlessness, tension, or even trouble sleeping. When Naoko first looked at Dorothea's counters, they were lined with canisters, spice jars, small appliances, and baskets of random items waiting to be put away later. None of this was unusual, especially in US homes where open shelving and countertop storage are popular. But for Dorothea, every time she glanced at her kitchen, she saw unfinished tasks, spices she meant to organize, a blender she kept saying she'd use, utensils that didn't have a permanent home. Naoko's solution wasn't to get rid of everything, but to create visual quiet. In Japan, even tiny kitchens often use light sliding panels to cover open shelving. These aren't heavy doors, they glide easily and can be made of wood, bamboo, or even frosted glass. When closed, they give the illusion of uninterrupted surfaces, letting your eyes rest while keeping everything you need right behind them. For Dorothea, they installed a set of lightweight sliding panels over her most cluttered open shelves. She also replaced a few mismatched plastic bins with woven baskets for small tools, like measuring spoons and peelers. The change was immediate, not just in appearance, but in how she felt. With the counters clear and the shelves hidden, the kitchen seemed more spacious, even though nothing major had been removed. Within a week, Dorothea noticed her anxiety levels drop. She no longer felt an undercurrent of unfinished work every time she walked through the room. Even more surprising, she slept better. She hadn't realized how much her mind carried the weight of visual clutter into her evenings. With her home looking calmer, her mind felt calmer, too. Naoko explained that hidden beauty isn't about hiding things because they are unattractive, it's about protecting your focus and energy. In US homes, this can be as simple as swapping open shelving for light sliding panels, using uniform, woven baskets instead of a mix of storage containers, keeping only 1 or 2 small appliances on the counter and storing the rest nearby. The beauty of this principle is that it works in every room, not just the kitchen. Clear your bathroom counter and store toiletries in baskets. Keep nightstands free of stacks and knickknacks, so your bedroom feels peaceful. Dorothea began applying hidden beauty to her living room, too, using fabric-covered storage boxes to tuck away remotes, chargers, and magazines. She discovered that her home wasn't just cleaner, it was quieter. So let's bring this to you. Do you prefer seeing everything out, or do you like a clean, hidden look? Tell us in the comments, because how you answer might reveal more about your home's energy than you think. Before Naoko's gentle but deliberate changes, Dorothea's kitchen, and by extension, her daily life, felt like an obstacle course. Preparing a simple lunch often meant shuffling between crowded cabinets and cluttered counters, searching for the right pan while stepping around 2 extra stools she rarely used. Tools were scattered in different drawers, forcing her to open and close half the kitchen just to make a salad. Even the act of setting the table became a balancing act, pulling heavy plates down from high shelves and hoping she wouldn't drop one. The cabinets were crammed so tightly that she sometimes avoided cooking altogether, just to skip the hassle. But once Naoko's principles took root, everything shifted. With the Ichiban Rule, Dorothea kept only the single best version of each tool she truly needed, eliminating the overwhelm of digging through duplicates. The flow path rearranged her most used items into easy, waist-high reach, creating a kitchen where every step felt purposeful and safe. The Mottainai Mindset freed her from guilt over letting go, transforming her extras into meaningful donations that benefited her community. And hidden beauty gave her countertops and shelves a calm, open look, a visual exhale every time she walked into the room. The before and after contrast wasn't just physical. Now, Dorothea could move through her kitchen in one smooth motion, cooking a meal without the mental drain of constant searching. She no longer worried about tripping over unused stools or stretching too far for something she needed. Everything had its place, and that place was designed for ease. Her counters stayed clear, her shelves looked tidy, and the entire space felt lighter, both to the eye and to the spirit. That lightness carried over into the rest of her home. With the success of her kitchen transformation, Dorothea started applying the same philosophy to her laundry area, her living room, even her bedroom. Slowly, her whole house began to reflect a sense of order and calm she hadn't felt in years. And with that calm came confidence. She began inviting friends over again, something she had avoided for a long time out of embarrassment about the state of her home. Now, she could host without stress, and even enjoyed showing her guests the simple changes that had made such a big difference. In the end, Dorothea realized something profound. It wasn't just her kitchen that changed, it was how she lived in her home. She moved with more ease, thought with more clarity, and rested with more peace. Her space finally supported her life, instead of quietly working against it. And for the first time in years, she felt like her home truly belonged to the season of life she was in. After 60, every step you take and every item you touch should make life easier, not harder. By this stage in life, your home should be a partner in your well-being, not a silent source of stress. The Japanese kitchen philosophy reminds us that a truly well-loved home is one where nothing is wasted. Not space, not time, not energy. Every object has a purpose, every movement flows naturally, and every corner feels calm instead of crowded. What's powerful about these ideas is that they're not about spending money or chasing perfection. They're about making your environment work for the way you live now, in this season of life. Whether it's choosing your one Ichiban item, rearranging your kitchen for a smoother flow path, adopting the generous spirit of the Mottainai Mindset, or creating hidden beauty that soothes your eyes and your mind, each step is a gift to yourself. These small shifts protect your energy, reduce your risk of injury, and invite more peace into your daily routine. Dorothea's story proves it's possible. She didn't move to a smaller home, hire a contractor, or throw everything out. She simply made her home easier to live in, and in doing so, she gave herself more freedom, more comfort, and more joy. That's the kind of transformation that matters at any age, but especially after 60, when every ounce of energy is too valuable to waste. So now, I'll leave you with this. If even one of these ideas inspired you, hit like, share this with a friend over 60, and subscribe, because your next chapter should feel lighter, calmer, and truly yours. And remember, the change doesn't have to happen all at once. Start with one drawer, one shelf, or one habit, and watch how the rest of your home and your life begins to follow.